Hello everyone and welcome to today's session, and today we'll be discussing the NCERT example questions for the chapter Organism and Population. This is the part 2 of the lecture. This is the disclaimer. So today we'll be understanding the basic concepts related to the chapter Organism and Population by discussing NCERT example questions. So these questions, they are based on some concepts. We'll discuss these concepts by working through NCERT example question. Okay, so in this session, we'll be discussing NCERT example questions. So these questions have been divided into various categories. Okay, so these categories are multiple choice questions, very short answer type question, short answer type question, and long answer type questions. Okay, so let's discuss this question. Now, a population has more young individuals compared to older individuals. What would be the status of the population after some years? So you have 4 options. You have to select the correct answer from these options. So this question tests your understanding of population dynamics, specifically how the age structure affects whether a population will grow, shrink, or stay the same over time. Okay, what are the options? It will decline, it will stabilize, it will increase, and option number D, it will first decline and then stabilize. What is the correct answer? Let's have a look at the answer. Option number C, it will increase. Let's have a look at the explanation. Now, population density and population size are ways to describe how many individuals are in a group and how crowded they are. Okay. Now, variation in number of individuals in a population. This is expressed as population density and the population size. Now, a population of more young individual than older individual will show positive growth in future. That is, it will increase after some time. Because you can see more number of individuals, they are young. Okay, means they can reproduce. So more number of individuals, they are in the pre-reproductive phase. Then these individuals will enter into the reproductive phase. They will produce offerings. Okay, so population will expand. And the number of individuals in the post-reproductive phase, they are less. Okay, the older individual, they are less. The next question, what parameters are used for tiger census in a country's national park and sanctuaries? Okay. So what are the options? Option number A is pug marks only. Option number B, pug marks and fecal pellets. Option number C, fecal pellets only. And option number D, actual head count. What will be the correct answer? So this question basically tests your understanding of population estimation technique in ecology. Let's have a look at the answer. Option number B, pug marks and fecal pellet is the correct answer. Let's have a look at the explanation. A scientist look for signs like pug marks, which are the footprints tigers leave behind, and fecal pellets, which are their droppings. So parameters used for tiger census in a country's national park and sanctuaries are footprints, which are the pug marks, and the fecal pellets of these conserved animals. Now, these methods are indirect instead of seeing the tiger itself. So researchers, they look for the traces left behind like detectives following clues. So this is important because tigers are elusive and often hide from humans. So direct counting is almost impossible in the wild. Now let's talk about why other options are incorrect. Next one, option number, first one is pug marks only. The first we see only use pug marks. Okay. Here, if we only use pug marks, we might miss tigers that haven't left fresh footprints or whose tracks have been washed away. So relying on just one sign can give us an incomplete or inaccurate count. So that's why this is not the correct answer. Next one, fecal pellets only. Similarly, using only fecal pellets isn't enough. Droppings can be old or might belong to other animals, making it hard to be sure how many tigers are really present. Now finally, actual head count are rarely possible because tigers are shy and avoid people, especially in large, dense forest. Next question, which of the following would necessarily decrease the density of a population in a given habitat? So option number is natality is more than mortality, immigration is more than immigration. Option number C, mortality and immigration. Option number D, natality and immigration. What is the correct answer? Okay, so let's have a look at the answer. See, option number C is mortality and immigration. Okay, now let's have a look at the explanation. Now, first let's understand what is population growth. So population growth means increase in its size. So it's all about how the size of a population changes, and that's determined by both the addition and loss of the individuals. Now let's define the population density. This is simply the number of individuals living in a specific area or volume at a given time. Now, thus mortality and immigration would necessarily decrease the density of a population in a given habitat due to loss of individuals. Okay, so due to loss of individual results from mortality and immigration. Okay, so both mortality and immigration, they lead to decrease in the population size. Mortality is the deaths, number of death in a given time duration. Immigration, what do you mean by immigration? Immigration means when the individuals, they are leaving a particular habitat and they are going somewhere else. So both of these factors will decrease the population size. On the other hand, if more individuals are born, which is natality, or they move into a particular area, which is immigration, the population density will increase. So it's the balance between these four factors, birth, death, immigration and immigration, that determines whether a population grows or shrinks. Next question, a protozoan reproduces by binary fission. What will be the number of protozoans in its population after 6th generation? Okay, so you have the options 128, 24, 64 and 32. What is the correct answer? Okay, option number C, 64 is the correct answer. Okay, now let's first understand what is binary fission. So it's a type of asexual reproduction where one protozoan splits into two individuals. Okay, this is known as binary fission. Okay, now let's see how this doubling works in practice. Okay, now this table demonstrates the rapid population growth of a protozoan through asexual reproduction, especially binary fission. So in this process, a single cell organism simply divides into two identical daughter cells, causing the population to double with each generation. Now this results in exponential growth where the population increases exponentially over time if conditions are favorable. Now as you can see from the generations shown, the number of individuals quickly goes from 1 to 2, then to 4 and then to 8 and so on. Now this ability for rapid multiplication allow protozoa to quickly increase their number when resources are abundant. Okay, so thus the population of a protozoan will be 64 after 6th generation. Now next question. In 2005, for each of the 14 million people present in the country, 0.028 were born and 0.008 died during the year. Using exponential equation, the number of people present in 2015 is predicted as. So options are 25 million, 17 million, 20 million and 18 million. What is the correct answer? Let's have a look at the answer. Option number B, 17 million is the correct answer. Okay. Now let's recall the exponential equation used to model the population growth. So this equation helps us predict how a population will change when we know the birth and the death rate. Okay, so this is the equation. dn by dt is equal to b minus d into n. Here, if we put in the values, the birth rate is 0.028, death rate is 0.008, and the population is 14 million. Okay, so if we put in the values, then you will get dn by 10 is equal to 0.028 minus 0.008 into 14. Okay, then into 0.020 into 14. Okay, by solving this, what you will get? So you have to multiplying 0.020 by 14 gives us 0.28. So this number represents the rate at which the population is increasing each year in millions. Now to find the total increase over 10 years, we multiply 0.28 by 10. So this is because we are looking at the change from 2005 to 2015, which is a 10-year period. So the total increase in population over this decade is 2.8 million. Okay, so the population increased by 2.8 millions over 10 years. So this is the extra number of people added to the original population due to difference between birth and the deaths. So we can add this increase to the original population. So 14 million plus 2.8 million equals to 6.8 million, which is around 17 million. Okay, this is clear. So we can say the number of people present in 2015 is predicted as 17 million. Now let's move on to the next question. Okay, so next question is lichens are associations of. Yes, what are the options? Bacteria and fungus. Option number B, algae and bacteria. Option number C, fungus and algae. And option number D is fungus and virus. What is the correct answer? Let's have a look at the answer. Option number C, fungus and algae. This is the correct answer. Okay, so lichens are a great example of a positive or beneficial interaction between two different species. Now, the algal partner in this relationship is called phycobiont and the fungal partner is called mycobiont. Finally, let's see where the fungal partners comes from. The fungus in lichens usually belongs to either the Ascomycetes group, okay, or the Basidiomycetes group. So this classification helps scientists understand and study the diversity of the lichens. So these fungus and algae, they form a symbiotic association. Okay, so lichens, these are the example of a symbiotic association between fungus and the algae. Here both the partners are benefited. Now, algae can photosynthesize. It is providing the organic compound to the fungus and the fungus is providing shelter to algae. Okay, both the partners are getting benefited. Fungus is also providing nutrients and water to the algae. Next one, which of the following is the partial root parasite? So options are sandalwood, mistletoe, orobranch and ganoderma. What is the correct answer? Okay, so let's have a look at the answer. Option number A, sandalwood is the correct answer. Let's have a look at the explanation. So sandalwood, scientific name is Santalum album. So sandalwood is called a partial root parasite because it attaches its roots to the roots of other plants to draw water and nutrients. But it can still make its own food through photosynthesis. So that's why it is a partial root parasite. Now next one, mistletoe is known as a hemiparasite, which means it gets some of its nutrients from the host plant, but can also photosynthesize on its own. Next one, orobank, which is a holoparasite. So unlike the others, a holoparasite depends entirely on its host for all nutrients and cannot photosynthesize at all. Next question, which one of the following organism reproduces sexually only once in its life? So what are the options? Banana plant, mango, tomato and eucalyptus. What is the correct answer? Option number A, banana plant is the correct answer. Now, these plants, they are monocarpic. So what are monocarpic plants? These are the plants that flower just once in their entire life. So examples include wheat and rice. Now let's focus on the banana plant. So it is a classic example of monocarpic plant. This means it reproduces sexually only once before dying. Next are the very short answer type questions. So first question is you have to define stenohaline species. So let's have a look at the answer. The first stenohaline species are organisms, usually freshwater or marine animals that can only survive in a narrow range of salinity levels. Now, they are sensitive to changes in the salt concentration. So even small shift in how salty the water is can be harmful to them. Let's talk about the urohaline organisms. So these organisms, they can handle a wide range of salinity. Okay, so unlike urohaline organism, they cannot adapt to wide fluctuations in salinity and are restricted to either a freshwater or saltwater environment. So stenohaline species, they cannot adapt to wide fluctuations in salinity. So that's why they're restricted to freshwater or saltwater environment. Okay, so we can say to sum up, stenohaline species are limited in where they are, in where they can live because they can't cope with much change in their environment. Next question, what is the interaction between two species called? Okay, so let's have a look at the explanation. Now, the interaction between two species is called an interspecific interaction. Now, inter means between and specific refers to a species. Now, these interspecific interaction can be beneficial, harmful, or neutral for the species involved. Next question, what is commensalism? Let's have a look at the answer. So, commensalism is a special kind of relationship between two different species. In this relationship, one organism, okay, this is benefited and the other organism, this is unaffected. Okay, now the commensal typical gains food, okay, shelter or transportation from the host. So host is unaffected here, but the commensal, this is getting benefit. So here the commensal, this is getting all the benefit, this is getting all the food, shelter, and the host, this is unaffected. Neither it is neither harmed nor benefited. What are the examples of commensalism? So one very known example is the relationship between orchid and the mango tree. So orchid are a type of plant that often grow on the branches of the mango tree. So it is a epiphyte. So orchid use mango tree for support, growing, growing high up on its branches. So this gives orchid better access to sunlight for photosynthesis, but the mango tree is unaffected. Listen, mango trees, this is neither harmed nor benefited, so it remains unaffected. So this type of association is commensalism. Okay, you were talking about the examples of commensalism. Another example is barnacles and whales. Now barnacles, they attach themselves to skin of the whales. By doing this, they get free transportation and better access to water rich nutrients, water which is rich in nutrients. So they get better access to food as the whale moves through nutrient rich waters. Now the whale doesn't seem to be affected by the barnacles. So this association is also commensalism. Next question, in an association of two animal species, one is a termite which feeds on wood and the other is a protozoan. Trichonympha present in the gut of the termite. What type of association they establish? Let's have a look at the answer. See, the termite provides shelter and space for the protozoans Trichonympha to live. Now the protozoa present in gut digest the wood which termite feeds upon. Now in the absence of Trichonympha, the termite is unable to digest wood and it dies. So what is this kind of relationship? Now since both the termite and the protozoan benefit from living together, this association is called mutualism. So this is a win-win situation. Both the interacting partners are benefited. Next question. Lianas are vascular plant rooted in the ground and maintain erectness of their stem by making use of other trees for support. They do not maintain direct relationship with those trees. You have to discuss the type of association the lianas have with the trees. Let's have a look at the answer. Okay, so lianas and trees have a relationship called commensalism. So in commensalism, one organism is benefited while the other organism is unaffected. Now you can see the lianas benefit by using tree for physical support to reach sunlight, while the tree is neither significantly harmed nor benefited by this interaction. Lianas are rooted in the ground and use trees as a kind of ladder to grow upwards. So lianas are getting benefited here. Now, but these lianas, they do not extract nutrients or establish a direct parasitic or mutualistic relationship with the trees. So this is an example of commensalism in nature. Next question, you have to give the scientific names of any two microorganisms inhabiting the human intestine. So let's have a look at the answer. Now here are the scientific names for two examples. Okay, so example number 1 is Escherichia coli. Now E. coli, this is the bacteria. This is found everywhere, okay, in the intestine of humans as well, and other warm-blooded animals. Now E. coli, you can see this is ubiquitous. This is present everywhere. Here they are present in the, or they are found in the intestine of humans and the intestine of other warm-blooded animals as well. Next is lactobacillus. This is the lactic acid bacteria. So these bacteria are also common in our intestines, and they are very famous for their role in making food like yogurt and cheese. So lactobacillus bacteria, they are known for their role in fermentation and digestion. So they convert sugars into lactic acid, which aids our digestive process and keeps harmful bacteria in check as well. Okay, so lactobacillus is a lactic acid bacteria. It is used for the preparation of yogurt and curd as well. So this lactic acid bacteria, they secrete lactic acid, and this acid, this will coagulate the proteins uh, in the milk, and the curd is made because of this. Okay, so because of the acid, the proteins in the milk, they will coagulate and the milk will turn into curd. Next question, what is a tree line? Let's have a look at the answer. See, a tree line is the natural geographical boundary at high altitudes or high latitudes beyond which trees cannot grow due to harsh environmental conditions. Now, beyond this tree line, you won't find tall trees anymore. Instead, you will find stunted shrubs, grasses, and herbs. So these plants are like the hardy survivors of the ecosystem, able to cope with the tough conditions where trees cannot grow. Now, trees that do manage to grow right at the tree line often look very different from the tall, straight trees we are used to see. Okay, so these trees, they might be short, they might be twisted, or they grow close to the ground, almost like bushes. Now, this stunted growth is a survival strategy, helping them withstand strong winds and cold temperatures. Now, these tree lines aren't just found on the mountains, they also exist near the Earth's poles. Next question, define zero population growth rate and draw age pyramid for the same. Let's have a look at the answer. Now, when the pre-reproductive age group individuals are comparatively fewer and both reproductive and post-reproductive stages are almost in equal, okay, that is, they are at the same level, then what happens? Okay, so this specific arrangement leads to what we call zero population growth rate. That means the number of births is just enough to replace the number of the deaths. So the total population size always stays the same over time. Okay, number of birth is equal to number of deaths. So it's like a balance. There is no increase, there is no decrease, but a steady number. So population is stable here. Now, when we draw this as an age pyramid, we get an inverted bell shape. Okay, so unlike a typical pyramid with a wide base, this one is narrower at the bottom and wider in the middle, showing fewer young people and more adults. So this shape usually visually represents a stable population where each generation is about the same size as the one before. So in this image, you can see how the age pyramid will look. Clear? So this is an age pyramid for the zero population growth rate. Now list any 4 characters that are employed in human population census. Let's have a look at the answer. Now population has the following characteristics that are employed in human population census. First is natality and mortality. Okay, so natality is the birth rate, mortality is the death rate. Okay, let's talk about the birth rate first. Now, number of birth occurring within a given population during a specific period, this is known as the birth rate. For example, if 100 babies are born in a town in 1 year, that's the birth rate for that year. Now it increases the size of the population. Obviously, the number of individuals are being added to the population. This will increase the population density. Now let's have a look at the death rate, which is opposite of the birth rate. So this measures how many people die in a population during a certain period. So death rate is simply the number of deaths that occur in a population over a specific time. For example, if 50 people die in a town in 1 year, that's the death rate for that year. A higher death rate means the population size will decrease. So if more people die than are born, the total number of people goes down, so population density will decrease. Now let's talk about the concept of sex ratio. Now the number of females per number of male in a population, this is known as the sex ratio. So it's an important factor in population dynamics and can influence growth rates. Clear? Now, a population has the following characteristics that are employed in human population census. Okay, we were talking about this. So, third one is the population density. Population density means the number of individuals per unit of space, like the number of people living in 1 square kilometer. Now, to calculate population density, we divide the total number of people by the total area they occupy. For example, if the city has 10,000 people living in 2 square kilometers, the density would be 5,000 people per square kilometers. The next characteristic is age distribution. This tells us how many people are in different age groups within a population. Now, age distribution is the proportion of individuals in different age groups such as children, adults, and elderly people. So this is important because different age groups have different needs, like schools for children or healthcare for older adults. Now, it is often represented visually in a population pyramid and helps predict future population growth. Okay. Now, the next one is population growth. Okay, this is very important characteristic. So this tells us whether the number of people in a certain area is increasing, staying the same, or decreasing. And population growth is measured by looking at how the number of individuals changes over a period of time. Now, to figure out population growth, we look at three main factors: natality, which is the birth rate; mortality, which is the death rate; and then the migration. Okay, clear? Means migration involves both immigration and the immigration. Clear? Now, when the birth rate exceeds the death rate, the population grows. When the death rate is higher, then the population will obviously decline. Next question, give one examples for each of the following type. So first one is migratory animal, second is camouflage animal, third is predator animal, fourth is biological control agent, and fifth is phytophagous animal, and the sixth one is chemical defense agent. What will be the correct answer? Okay, let's talk about the migratory animal, the Arctic tern. This is a great example of the migratory animals. It travels thousands of kilometers between the Arctic and the Antarctic every year. Next one is the camouflage animals. So grasshoppers and chameleons are masters at blending into their environment, especially chameleons. Predator animal, this is lion. Lion is a classical example of the predator animal. It is a, okay, this lion is at the top of the food chain in its habitat. Next are the biological control agents. So ladybug beetle, this is a helpful insect for the farmers. Ladybug eat pests like aphids and they act like natural pest controllers. And they also reduce our dependency on the chemical pesticides. Next one is phytophagous animals. So these are those that feed on plants. Okay, like caterpillars are a very good example. They munch on the leaves and can sometimes be seen in gardens or on trees as well. Okay, finally, let's discuss the chemical defense agent. Now, calotropis plant, they produce cardiac glycosides, which are chemicals that protect them from being eaten by the herbivores. Okay, so this is an example of chemical defense agent. So plants are producing these, you can say, chemicals as a defense mechanism. So this chemical cardiac glycosides, this make calotropis very bitter and this prevents the herbivory. Next question, you have to fill in the blanks. So this table is given to you. You have to analyze this table. Okay, you have to tell about the type of interaction and the examples as well. Here two species are given to you, species A and species B. Okay, and you have to fill in this table. Let's have a look at the answer. So you can see here, now the first row where one species benefit and the other is harm, this is known as predation. Like when a caterpillar eats a leaf, this is also an example of predation. Clear? So phytophagous animal, this is caterpillar. Okay, and it is eating the plants. Now this is the example of predation only. Okay, even herbivores, they are predators in ecological context. Second row where both species are benefited, this is called protocorporation. Okay, or you can also write this as mutualism. In mutualism, both the species are benefited. Okay, it is a kind of symbiotic association. Both the interacting partners are benefited. Okay, clear? Also known as protocorporation. You can also call this as protocorporation also. Example is oxpecker bird eating ticks of a rhino. Okay, both here, the rhino and the oxpecker, both are getting benefited here. Clear? Now next one, third one. Okay, this is which type of interaction this is? This is commensalism. So where one partner is benefited and the other is unaffected. Like a hermit crab using a sea anemone for protection. Clear? So here one partner is benefited, another is unaffected. Okay, so these were the types of the interaction. Next one, you have to observe the set of 4 figures A, B, C, D, and I have to answer the following. So first one is which one of the figures show mutualism. Second is which kind of association is shown in D. Next one, name the organism and the association in C. And the last one is what role is the insect performing in B. Let's have a look at the answer. Okay, figure A shows a pollinator, which is a bee on a flower. So this is a classic example of two organisms interacting closely. Now, this relationship between the pollinator insect and the plant is called mutualism. In mutualism, both the partners are benefited. Okay. Yeah, so bees, they are getting the nectar and in return they are pollinating the flower. Next one is the predation. So figure D shows predation. In predation, one organism, the predator, hunts and the other organism, the prey, this is being eaten up. Okay, this is clear. Now, third one, these are the aggregate and grazing cattle, and this is a very good example of commensalism. Here, the aggregate is getting benefited by eating insects stirred up by the cattle, but the cattle is unaffected. It is neither harmed nor benefited. Okay, next one for question number 4. What is the answer? Okay, let's focus on the insect in figure B. Now, the insect is acting as a scavenger here, which means it's cleaning up by feeding on dead organic matter. Now, scavengers, they play an important role in nature, just like garbage collectors in the city. Okay, so these are the figures, figure number C and figure number D. Next question, you have to comment on the growth curve given below. Let's have a look at the answer. Now, first, let's identify the type of growth curve shown. So, this is the logistic growth curve here, which is S-shaped. Okay, so here actually two growth curves are given to you. One is J-shaped, another is the sigmoidal shape. So J-shaped curve you get during the exponential growth, and the sigmoidal shape curve you get during the logistic growth curve. Okay, in exponential you get a J-shaped curve. In logistic growth curve you get the S-shaped curve. Okay, now you can see exponential growth occurs when the resources are unlimited. Okay, logistic growth occurs when the resources are limited. So actually, logistic growth curve, this is considered more realistic because resources are always limited. And here the K stands for the carrying capacity. What is carrying capacity? This is the maximum population size that the environment can support. N, what do you mean by N? This indicates the population density, which is the number of species of a population per unit area. Now R stands for the intrinsic rate of natural increase. Okay, clear? Now this is like the speed at which a population can grow under ideal conditions. Okay, means when there are no limits. This is known as R, intrinsic rate of natural increase. Where the population can grow maximally under ideal conditions. Here, so one of the curve is for the logistic growth curve, another is for the exponential growth curve. Here, logistic growth curve is considered more realistic. Next one, a population of Paramecium caudatum was grown in a culture medium. After 5 days, the culture medium became overcrowded with Paramecium and has depleted nutrients. What will happen to the population, and what type of growth curve will the population attain? You have to draw the growth curve. Let's have a look at the answer. So initially, after a lag phase, the population will grow in an exponential manner as the nutrient and space will be abundant. But this rapid growth doesn't last forever. As more paramecium fill the culture, resources like nutrients and space become limited. The population growth slows down. Okay, population growth will slow down and eventually it will level off, following what's called the logistic growth pattern. So this creates an S-shaped or sigmoid curve. Okay. Now let's talk about the carrying capacity here. This is denoted by the letter K. The carrying capacity is like the maximum number of guests a room can hold comfortably. Because scientifically, how you can define it, it is the largest population size that the environment can support with its available resources. Now, what is an N stands for the population density at a specific time. Finally, R, this is the intrinsic rate of natural increase. So, this is a measure of how quickly the population would grow if there was unlimited resources. So, here this graph represents clearly the growth curve. So, you can see this B. Okay, this is B, this is showing you the logistic growth curve. Okay, this is S-shaped curve, this is sigmoidal curve. This is logistic growth when the resources are limited. So here you will have a lag phase, then exponential phase, and then in the end you will get a asymptote, means the population will stabilize. Okay, so when the carrying capacity is achieved, then the population will stabilize. Okay, the image in the A, this A graph shows you exponential growth when the resources are unlimited. But here we are talking about the logistic growth, which will be B, which is showing you S-shaped curve. Now next one, you have to discuss the various type of positive interaction between the species. Now, first let's classify the type of interaction between species. So interspecific interaction can be positive or beneficial. Okay, they can be negative or they can be neutral as well. Now some example of positive interaction includes scavenging, commensalism, proto-corporation as well mutualism. Each of these represents a different way that species can help each other in the nature. Okay, let's talk about the mutualism. In mutualism, both species are benefited. So it is like a win-win partnership. Example is lichen. Lichen is a symbiotic association. This is a mutualistic association between fungus and the algae. Both the partners are getting benefited here. Okay. So the algae can photosynthesize and it is providing food to the fungus, and in return fungus is providing shelter to the algae, and it is also helping algae absorb water and the nutrients. Mycorrhizal association, this is also another example of mutualism. So myco means fungus, rhiza means root. So this is an association between fungus and the roots of the higher plant. Again here fungus and plant both are getting benefited. Okay, plant is again producing food. It is providing food to fungus, and fungus in return helps plant to absorb minerals and nutrients such as phosphorus. Okay, so fungi help the plant in absorption of essential nutrients from the soil, while the plant in turn provide fungus with energy yielding carbohydrates. Plant also offer nectar, juicy and nutritious fruits to animals that help pollinate their flowers and disperse their seeds. So this is another example of mutualism. Okay, next is commensalism. In commensalism, one species is benefited while the other is unaffected. Okay, example is orchid growing as an epiphyte on a mango branch. Here, orchid is using the mango tree for support so that it get better access to the sunlight. It is using the mango tree to grow up. Okay, another example is barnacles growing on back of the whale. Here the barnacles, they get a free ride through nutrient-rich water, which helps them feed, while the whale is not really affected. Another example is cattle egret foraging close to the cattle that stir up and flush out insects from the vegetation. One more example is sea anemone that has stinging tentacles that protect the clownfish from the predators. So the clownfish gets safety while the sea anemone isn't affected. Okay, moving on to scavenging. So scavenging is when organisms like bacteria and fungi feed on remains of the dead animals. So they benefit by getting nutrients while the dead animal isn't affected anymore. Next is proto-corporation. This is a type of relationship where both partners are benefited, but they don't depend on each other for survival. Okay, clear? So this is proto-corporation, where both the partners are benefited, but these two partners, they are not at all dependent on each other for survival. They can even survive without the other partner as well. Clear? In proto-corporation, the association is purely for mutual benefit, but the species can live independently as well. So this flexibility distinguishes proto-corporation from more dependent relationship like mutualism. Okay, so this was the end of the session. I hope the session was quite knowledgeable for you. We'll meet you in the next session. Thank you very much for listening.